Help you God?
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
It's a new era in Washington with President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris taking office in the midst of these challenging times. Today we'll look at the many Hoosiers serving key roles in the new administration. Plus, former Vice President Mike Pence back in Indiana. We'll talk with his brother, Congressman Greg Pence, and we'll talk about the security precautions at the state capitol here in Indiana with state lawmakers Rod Bray, Greg Taylor, and Terry Austin. All that and the governor's State of the State address. It's all ahead this Sunday in Focus.
Exploring the issues that matter most in Indiana. This is In Focus with Dan Spieler.
My whole soul is in this, bringing America together, uniting our people, uniting our nation. And I ask every American to join me in this cause.
President Joe Biden takes office as the nation's 46th president. Good morning, I'm Dan Spieler. There's a new administration in Washington, D.C. as the now former president faces an impeachment trial in the Senate in the coming weeks, even as the new president calls for unity. Washington correspondent Kelly Meyer has the latest on President Biden's first week in office.
Joe Biden returned to the White House Wednesday, this time as president.
No time to waste.
The newly sworn-in President Biden signed several executive orders, including one on COVID-19, mandating masks on federal property.
We're going to rebuild our economy as well. And these are just all starting points.
It was a whirlwind day for the president and Vice President Kamala Harris, who was sworn in as the first female, first Black American, and first South Asian American to hold the office.
So help me God.
On the west front of the U.S. Capitol, President Biden gave his first address, laying out his hope for the next 4 years.
And set our sights on the nation we know we can be and we must be.
Former presidents Obama, Bush, and Clinton were all there and joined the new leaders in a wreath-laying ceremony at Arlington National Cemetery.
Present or.
The evening's usual inaugural parties are being replaced by a primetime broadcast called Celebrating America, with celebrity guests and a final message from the new president.
And to overcome the challenges in front of us requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy: unity.
Kelly Meyer reporting there. So what will the new administration in Washington mean for all of us here in Indiana? And what can the new president do to try and bring the country together in these very divided times? Kayla Sullivan has a closer look at what Indiana political leaders are saying about the president's call for unity.
For without unity, there is no peace.
President Joe Biden calls for the American people to put aside their differences.
We can see each other not as adversaries, but as neighbors. We can treat each other with dignity and respect.
It's a message both Republican and Democratic Hoosiers agree with.
We need as a nation to kind of come together, recognize that our differences are there and that those are very, very healthy, and that we can have a civil and substantive debate.
I think that he speaks to everybody.
Though unity is needed, President Biden noted it's easier said than done.
And that will no doubt be one of the biggest challenges for President Biden.
He didn't push a lot of policy in his speech as president.
So I think he didn't have to go too far into that, except say that this is the direction he wanted to set. We have to move forward here together, and politics will have its day, but it doesn't have to be like this.
UND political science professor Laura Wilson says a message of bringing the two parties together was crucial for states like Indiana, where President Donald Trump won by 17 percentage points.
It's important to understand who this new leader is, to get a sense of his vision. And of course, it's easy to talk about unity. We should look forward to seeing how President Biden approaches that in the future.
From the Indiana State House, I'm Kayla Sullivan.
Meantime, after this month's insurrection, the security concerns at the inauguration also led to lockdowns at state capitals across the country, including here in Indiana, where the State House was closed earlier this week. Now some lawmakers wonder if that will lead to delays in this year's session. We spoke with legislative leaders this past week.
I don't think there's going to be any doubt that we may have fewer bills that actually end up becoming law.
I certainly get that, but you have to take everything in context. And, 2 weeks ago, we saw kind of a horrific scene in Washington, D.C., and you have to keep that in the back of your mind at the very least.
It's better safe than sorry under these circumstances. When we look at what we've seen we have to be extraordinarily careful when it comes to holding session.
The General Assembly will still be able to plow through and get all of their work done.
Now, the security concerns and the ongoing pandemic also prompted Governor Holcomb to deliver his State of the State address virtually this past week. We'll have some of the highlights from his remarks coming up later this morning. Today, we're also talking about former Indiana Governor and now former Vice President Mike Pence, who returned to his home state of Indiana after the inauguration on Wednesday.
Serving as your Vice President was the greatest honor of our life. But now that that season of service has come to an end, we just had to come home.
As for what's next for the former VP, not even his brother is sure. Congressman Greg Pence spoke with us at the airport on Wednesday.
He just did an outstanding job the whole time. I think the way he supported his president and the administration was just the right thing for every president to do. President Biden did that for President Obama, and my brother really distinguished himself as in the same line of support for his president. Happy he's coming home to Columbus, Indiana, where we grew up. Sad that things didn't work out and he wasn't going to be my vice president for the next 4 years.
What's the future hold for him?
I don't know. Hopefully I'll find out a little bit after he gets here. I think he was busy trying to do the right thing out in Washington, which I think he absolutely did. He's a hero for what he did, but I don't think he's really looked forward.
Congressman Greg Pence there. Meantime, as several key Hoosiers, like the vice president, leave D.C., several others are getting to work in the new administration. President Biden choosing longtime advisor and Indy native Ron Klain for chief of staff. Klain served as chief of staff for Biden during former President Obama's first term. Klain has worked with Biden since his campaign for president back in 1988. And of course, another key Hoosier in the new administration, former South Bend Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who went before the Senate for his confirmation hearing on Thursday. Rashad Hudson has more.
Thursday, former South Bend, Indiana Mayor Pete Buttigieg took a big step to becoming President Joe Biden's pick to lead the transportation department.
We need to build our economy back better than ever, and the Department of Transportation can play a central role in this.
Fellow Hoosier and Indiana Senator Todd Young introduced him to the Senate committee.
And as mayor, he invested in important infrastructure improvements.
Buttigieg outlined his vision to protect travelers and improve the nation's infrastructure.
I will work every day to make sure the department meets its mission of ensuring safety. Safety for both travelers and for workers.
If confirmed, Buttigieg would become the first openly gay person confirmed by the Senate to a cabinet position. Mississippi Senator Roger Vickers said President Biden's plan to improve rail could impact the entire country.
These issues are significant for all Mississippians and all Washingtonians and all Americans.
Washington Senator Maria Cantwell stressed the need for a big and bold infrastructure plan.
And we need to make infrastructure investment all around the United States of America, including in public transportation.
A Senate confirmation vote for Buttigieg is expected in the coming days. In Washington, Rashad Hudson.
All right, I'm joined now by Importantville's Adam Wren. Adam, a number of Hoosiers in this new administration and some bipartisan moments there with Senator Young and transportation nominee Pete Buttigieg.
That's right. As he gears up for his own reelection bid, we've seen Senator Todd Young kind of move to the center over the last few weeks, and his introducing and championing the nomination process and the confirmation process of Pete Buttigieg is part and parcel of that. I've been told to expect him to announce reelection sometime after February 1st. And so, he's going to be a really key figure in the Senate as a bipartisan figure on some of these big legislative deals like infrastructure. Yeah. We saw him this past week, reject a waiver for the Secretary of Defense, Lloyd Austin, who was ultimately confirmed. But Senator Todd Young, as well as, of course, Pete Buttigieg and Ron Klain, these will all be figures that we hear about every day in the news, and kind of a continuation of Indiana as Importantville.
Real quick here, the impeachment trial, might that slow the process for some of the cabinet nominees like Buttigieg still waiting for confirmation?
We've heard a number of Senate Republicans like John Cornyn say exactly that this could very much slow the nomination and confirmation process down. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen.
Okay, Adam, thank you so much. We appreciate it. Coming up next this Sunday in Focus, we'll hear from more of our panelists on both sides of the aisle to get their thoughts on the new administration in D.C. And we'll talk with the state's chief medical officer about the efforts to ramp up vaccinations here in the state of Indiana.